Robyn Openshaw here, and welcome to my new YouTube channel called Robyn Openshaw Bitcoin. So I wanted to talk to you about why Bitcoin represents hope. And this applies to anybody of any generation, but specifically the millennials. And I am the parent of 4 millennials. And so if my 4 children don't have any hope, and I don't. And I want to tell you this story of why Bitcoin represents hope in the context of an argument I just had with my 81-year-old mother. I do not make it a policy to argue with my 81-year-old mother. In fact, I think it's been decades since I argued with her. And I really try not to, but I'm just going to tell you why, for me, Bitcoin has changed my life. It's not necessarily why I live on a beach and am recording this while I sit out here enjoying the ocean in the middle of the day on a Friday. But I think that the millennials have their big comeback here, whereas the boomers, they got to watch their real estate 10x in value. They got to watch the stock market go up, 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 up their whole lives. Our children don't have that. We Gen Xers came out of college. We didn't know there was any other thing besides go to college and work 40 to 70 hours a week. And so we've made decent money and we had lots of blue sky. But look at what the millennials are facing right now. All 4 of my kids work full time. They've all lost jobs in the last couple of years. So here's the argument with my mom. So I was kind of bugged because I had asked her and my dad if they would rent their 1-bedroom basement apartment to one of my children who needs an affordable place to live and is living in conditions that I am concerned about. And I would like her to have access to a kitchen. And my parents have this 1-bedroom apartment. So anyways, not to bog you down with that, but I said, Mom, how come I've asked Dad like 5, 6 times if he would rent your basement apartment to my daughter and her boyfriend? Are you doing that? Are you denying her an affordable place to live because you don't approve of her being with her boyfriend for 2.5 years and not being married? Because I know that that's a core value of my mother's. I said, because that's what she thinks it is. And my mother said, yes, I do not approve of her lifestyle living with him and not being married. And I said, okay, Mom, but you realize they would love to be married and they literally can't afford to. She said, but you know what? There's something else. There's another reason I won't rent to your daughter in the basement. And that is, I'm like, okay, I'm here for it. What is it? She said, that is, I don't approve of your parenting. I'm like, really? And she said, yeah, because you gave your kids money, and kids should struggle for their money, and they should have to hustle, and they should have to work, and they should have to solve life's problems by being scrappy. And I said, Mom, I actually completely agree with you on that. And every single one of my kids has had serious struggles. One of my kids was like negative $150 in the bank, and in the course of a year was at $20,000 in savings. I didn't have anything to do with that. That was my kid and his wife doing that themselves. I do not subsidize my children's lifestyle. However, and I don't know how my mother knew this, I found out later, one of my kids told her, I said to her, I said, you know what, Mom, you're not going to understand this because she's technically silent generation, right? Not even boomer, older than that, silent generation. I said, you got to stay home and take care of children. You had that option. Not one of your granddaughters is going to have that option. And she's got like, I don't know, dozens of them. This didn't mean anything to my mom because she doesn't have any point of reference for it. It won't make any sense to her. But I have told her this before. I'm like, you got to have a life where you never had to earn a living. That's not going to be a thing for your granddaughters. Okay. They told the boomer generation that they told women that they were losers if they stayed home and took care of children and family and home. And so my generation, Gen X, were the original latchkey kids. Okay. Most of my friends came home to find the key hidden under the rock, let themselves in, eat some Doritos and ho-hos or whatever. My mom was one of the few who was still staying home with her children. She had 8 children. And everywhere we went, we got glared at like you're causing the population explosion that's going to be the end of the world. That was the narrative in the 70s. So I don't want to diss my mom that she just grew up with a silver spoon in her mouth, because she didn't, because like all of our clothes came from garage sales. So she had to be super frugal, and my dad worked for the military. So, but my mom made the choice to be a stay-home mom. That's not even going to be a thing for 2 generations past, when they pulled all the women into the workforce. Now it's like not even possible to be a stay-home mom for, I don't know, 99+%. Maybe a woman is lucky enough to find a dude who's going to go work 60, 70 hours a week and be a slave to a law firm, or be a doctor or a lawyer, or start a business. Maybe there's 1% of them that will be able to stay home with children, or even have the ability to make that choice, which is a choice I respect a lot. So I told my mom, you know what? First of all, she would be married if they could afford it. And second of all, I didn't give my kids money like, here, splash some money around, or let me defray your rent. They are living in, some of them, deplorable conditions, like on the edge of homelessness. I have not rescued them from that. What I did is I gave them a small Bitcoin holding. And I told them, if you ever want me to add any more to this, you have to hold it. You don't spend it. You don't see it go up 100% in value. You just hold it. So, and I will have them show me their account if I go to add any more to it. So Bitcoin is hope. It's the millennials get back. They're not going to make a ton of money in the US stock market. The stock market is disgustingly overvalued. Okay, China just showed us that they can, for 10% of the cost, outdo the NVIDIA accomplishments and OpenAI and ChatGPT. China just embarrassed us and overnight tanked the NVIDIA stock by 17%. Our kids, if you have millennial children, they're not going to get ahead the way the boomers did. They're not going to get ahead the way Gen X has. Most of us Gen Xers still very much working, still, out there doing the hustle and grind. But we had a lot of this guy, and the millennials are up against stuff that the rest of us weren't. And so, yeah, I'm not necessarily here to defend to you that I put a very small amount of Bitcoin in an account for my children, but I want them to have hope. And I'm not going to apologize for that. I want my children to have hope. But any millennial children, whether your parents can afford to put a few hundred or a few $1,000s into Bitcoin for you, start saving it yourself. Put a couple $100s a month into Bitcoin on Coinbase or Uphold or Kraken, one of the major exchanges, or Swan Bitcoin will custody it for you. They do take a fee. They take, like, I don't know, some portion of 1%. So you have different options. I'm not going to go into all the options for how to custody it. You can take it completely off of the platform and custody it yourself on a cold wallet. That's totally doable. I teach all this stuff in a mastermind. I find that it takes like 3 classes or so before smart people start to really realize how big the opportunity is with Bitcoin. So it's a complete paradigm shift. But at this point, it's been de-risked, and it is the millennials' hope. So we have to get the millennials to get it. They get technology, so it's an easier get for them. We Gen Xers, we have like 1 foot in the analog world and 1 foot in the digital world. We've been sort of forced into being more technical because of our careers. And then the boomers, a lot of them don't get it. There are some, though. There are some. There are channels out here on YouTube that are specifically for boomers, and there are boomers who get it. Our new president gets it now and didn't get it 4 years ago. And I think it's because of his sons. He's got 3 sons who are all Bitcoin all day. So anyway, Bitcoin represents hope for me. It represents hope for the future of my children. When countries are starting to state intent to come into Bitcoin, it means that our children have the opportunity to front run huge public companies, sovereign nations, pension funds, cities, counties, are all stating intent. They're out there stating intent. Larry Fink of BlackRock, biggest company in the world, I believe, said that that they're advising a sovereign nation's wealth fund, and they're deciding where they land between 2% Bitcoin and 5% Bitcoin. This is Larry Fink, who was making fun of Bitcoin just like 2 years ago. So the whole world is changing. The ground is shifting under your feet. You just have to decide, do you want to be a part of it, or do you want to have this pass you by and spend the rest of your life in regret? I'm not saying you take every single dollar you've got and throw it into Bitcoin. I'm just saying you do need to get educated about it. So I teach a 90-minute class every Wednesday night. I've been doing it for 4 years. I could just sit here on this beach and drink margaritas, and I have neighbors who do exactly that. They retired a year ago or 5 years ago or whatever. You know what? The more I get it with Bitcoin and the better I get at teaching it, the more responsibility I feel to bring newbies into this ecosystem and to help new people understand it so they don't get left behind. So don't get left behind. I'll put a link down below for you to join our Wednesday night classes. You have to put the time in. You can't learn Spanish in a 20-minute YouTube video, can you? This is a radical departure from being in the dollar, where it's being debased constantly. Your government is printing more of it. Donald Trump, God bless him, is going to print more money than any president ever has in a quantum way. He has to. Going to debase your dollars. The stock market, any bonds you can get your hands on, it ain't going to save you. So money is flowing into Bitcoin. It's flowing in fast. It's the fastest adoption technology in the history of technology. So it's still early days, still really, really early days. You heard it here. I warned you. I told you there's a huge opportunity here. I hope you listen. You do have to spend some time learning it to understand it, because your questions are valid. So bring your questions to class. We have a really interactive community, and in small groups, we talk about why I think this is the biggest opportunity of my lifetime. And for sure, it's the way that my kids get ahead. Okay, their generation has a completely different world than ours did. So come join me on Wednesday nights. See the link down below.